Meatballs are one of my absolute favorite things to eat, and this recipe gives you a perfect tender meatball every single time. I'm Kelsey from RoughAndTumbleFarmhouse.com, and every single week I share videos about farming, family food, and fortitude here on our 5-acre homestead here in northern Minnesota. Recipe, you're going to be mixing it up by hand, so I really recommend measuring out all your ingredients in advance. So let's get all the dry ingredients mixed up first. So first you want to have 1 cup of breadcrumbs, or if you don't have breadcrumbs, which I didn't have any on hand and I'm not about to take out my KitchenAid to make breadcrumbs, if you happen to have a very bland cereal, you can also just powder that up. I really recommend making sure that you crunch it up first and then measure it out to get the right amount. So we've got 1 cup of breadcrumbs. To that we are going to add 1 teaspoon salt, half a teaspoon celery salt, 1/4 teaspoon pepper, and 1/4 teaspoon nutmeg. Next, we're going to start adding ingredients to our ground meat. I'm personally just using ground pork here. I have 2 pounds. You can do a mix of pork and beef. You can just do beef. I have never done poultry before. I think something like a venison would probably translate pretty well. If you're going to do like a turkey or a ground chicken or something like that, I'm not sure how well that would work with these spices, but you're more than welcome to give it a shot and let me know below in the comments how it turns out. But here I've got the 2 pounds of ground pork. So to that, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of chopped onion, or actually this is more of a diced or a minced texture, so pretty darn small on that chopping. To that I am going to add in mustard. Now you can do dry mustard into the spice mix if you have some on hand. I didn't today, so I'm going to use just a pre-mixed mustard. So if you're doing the dry, you want to do a half a teaspoon of dry mustard. If you're doing the prepared mustard, you want a whole teaspoon. Next, we'll add in the breadcrumbs and the spice mixture. I just kind of dump that all over the top. And you're going to add a half a cup of milk. Again, just pour it all over the top. And then last but not least, you're going to add 1 egg. And honestly, the best way to mix up a meatball recipe like this is just to use your hands. You can use a fork if you want to, but the way my mom and my grandma did it and the way I do it is just to get in there and mix it up. Alright, so the next step, of course, is to cook our meatballs. So I use pretty much the biggest pan that I have here just to make the process go a little bit faster, because you're making 2 pounds of meatballs. It takes a little bit while to get them all cooked. And here I have just a layer of oil on the bottom, kind of enough to just lightly cover the pan. We're not deep frying these things. I just use olive oil. You can use whatever oil you would like. And we're going to cook these up in batches. So the most important thing that I can teach you about meatball making is how to actually form a meatball. Now, some people think you really got to pack them in, but I am using very, very light touch here and just gently forming it into a meatball. And honestly, that's it. If you want a really round meatball, you certainly can, but I am not packing this like I'm making a snowball or something. I'm just trying to get it in a generally roundish shape, and that's all the more I'm doing. You can see the little bit of meat I dropped there on the pan tells me that my pan is hot and ready to go. I've got it at about a medium heat. I'm just going to set it on there, and then I'm going to keep on making them until I fill the pan. When it comes time to flip the meatballs, I like to use just a pair of tongs like these, because again, we want to be pretty gentle with them. Just work your way around the pan in the same order you kind of put them on there. They should be done. And now I will rotate these a couple more times, just kind of putting the raw side down to make sure these get pretty much cooked all the way through, because these meatballs, when they are done, you can eat them just as is. They're ready to go on the sauce, or if you want to turn them into a Swedish meatball, you can do that too. You don't have to bake these in the oven after they are cooked, though you most certainly can. Especially since these are pork, I want to make sure they get cooked completely through. I did turn my stove down just a little bit, so now it's just a little bit lower than medium because they're browning nicely, but just a little browner than I like them to be. If you are wanting to make something that is a Swedish type meatball with like a gravy, before you put the meatballs in the pan, after you form them, I would toss them just in a little bit of flour mixed with salt and pepper, because that's going to give you a really nice base for a thick gravy. So I have rotated these meatballs so that they have been cooked on pretty much all their sides. Again, we're pretty much just going to eat these with barbecue sauce tonight, and so I want to make sure they are cooked all the way through. I'm not baking them in the oven at all. If you're not sure if your meatball is cooked all the way through, easiest way to test, in my opinion, is just to yank one out of here, cut it in half, and make sure there is no pink meat left inside. And after this, we are going to set them on a paper towel to let them strain a little bit. And that's it, a really simple recipe. We have a big platter here of barbecue meatballs that we are going to be having for supper tonight. I like to serve these with au gratin potatoes, and a side salad is one of our family favorites. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know if you have a favorite meatball recipe down in the comments below. Otherwise, we'll see you here next week for more videos about farming, family food, and fortitude here at our Rough and Tumble farmhouse.